So, welcome everybody. It's Charli Wall. Welcome to Carriage, Dear Heart. And today I'm joined by lovely Hayley. Hello, Hayley.
Hi.
How are you feeling?
Nervous.
You very kindly agreed to come on and be a guest for my podcast, which I'm deeply grateful for. And as you know, and some of the other ladies know, this gets live streamed into my Facebook group, the Freedom Group, which you're a member of.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to tell the listeners, just first of all, and the question I try to open up with most of the time is, what does the word carriage mean for you?
Like I've just said, I had this thing pop into my head one night while I'd woken up in the middle of the night about courage. Knowing that your tough days, knowing that you can get through your tough days and that good days are ahead, if that kind of made sense to me anyway when it popped into my head. And it was just after I'd spoken to you and it was about this thing in my head about courage. So yeah, just trying to get through your tough days, knowing that good days are ahead.
Has that been your experience?
Yeah. Yeah, massively. Even now, and it's a year ago, now, since we had first, maybe, I don't know if it was the first meeting, but anyway, the first email, I think. So yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's like
a whole year.
So before we sort of get into that, Hayley, can you tell everyone a little bit about you?
I'm nearly 41. I've got 3 children, married, stay-at-home mom, even though I've got a little sort of cleaning business on the side for now. Yeah, I just want to make a big change for how I am, for my family, really. Yeah.
Okay, so you obviously embarked on working with me one-to-one around this time last year, which is amazing. Can you tell us what your life was like before you started working with me?
I'd get really overwhelmed, as if I couldn't cope. I thought I was the worst mother ever. Thought I was just an awful person, basically, and I don't know if I'm allowed to swear.
You're allowed to swear, it's fine.
I thought I was fucked up. I thought there was no hope. And I suppose when I came across you, it was one of the things that I felt was, I just felt really drawn to you. It made sense to what you were saying, but I suppose I felt like it was my last hope in some ways, really, that I knew I'd got to get this sorted. Otherwise, I don't know if I would have been here, to be honest.
What was the impact of that then at the time on you? What was the struggle? What was it causing you to do and be?
I did feel, and I don't want obviously to upset anyone, but I did feel that suicide used to pop in my head all the time, that was the only way out, because my brain just felt so full on constantly, all these thoughts. And I haven't got a bad life at all, but the thought, obviously, when you're in your own head, it's really tough. So yeah.
So did you feel alone, or did you feel just
very alone? Yeah, very alone. Yeah, really.
And how did you come across me?
Through Simone on Instagram, and I kept thinking, I like the sound of this Charli woman. I'm going to follow her. So yeah.
Simone's actually going to be a guest, I think, later on this month as well. Funnily enough, yeah. So you started watching my stuff, and there was some resonance, was there?
Yeah, definitely. Like, it just kind of clicked that I was making all of it up. That seemed to click really quickly, that I was adding on to these stories that I was making up in my head, and I was adding stuff on. But I suppose I'd always kind of lived in some kind of chaos in my head and life anyway. It felt like that anyway. And so adding on, convincing myself that all this was true, that I possibly couldn't be a good mom, and everything, like the way that the kids reacted was my fault. I didn't want my eldest growing up to be like me, and it was just so intense all the time.
I remember that first conversation, actually.
Yeah.
So then you took the plunge and you signed up for 6 months as a 40th birthday present. Was that right?
Yeah. Now I'm nearly 41.
Still a baby.
A bit wiser now, though, a year on.
Well, let's hear about that. How are you wiser a year on?
It's just when I have I don't really have a bad day anymore, but when I have a moment, I stop myself in my tracks and think, no, you're going into an old habit here. You don't need to do that. And then I kind of find myself smiling to myself, thinking, you notice, you picked yourself up on that then. Just so I feel so much more aware. I realised that my kids' emotions are nothing to do with me. They're their emotions. They're not going to be like me because the whole situation is totally different. Even down to, being with my husband, being with people, and just knowing that I don't have to be anything for people to like me, and that's given me such comfort, because I used to be such a people pleaser and worry about just, I suppose, having friends and being the right kind of person. And whereas now it's like, if I go out, if I meet someone for coffee, that's lovely. If I don't, I like my own company as much as I like being with people. And sometimes I quite like it more now than I've ever liked it, really, because I'm not in my head as much.
So would you say then that when you were on your own, that it was difficult before?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. And seeing, like, scrolling on my phone, maybe watching something, or always having to have music on just to try and distract. Whereas that's definitely improved. Just being in my own and finding what I like. Because I've even now, even a year on, I'm still finding what I like. Because I just found I got to 40 and I didn't have a clue what I liked.
What would you have put that down to?
I suppose I don't know, maybe trying to please others all the time and thinking I didn't deserve to have interests or a hobby. And it was just, I suppose, just easy just to go with the flow, really. But whereas now, oh gosh, no, I don't think I could. Well, I know I couldn't keep that life up, just not doing things I enjoy. And even if people think it's weird now, I don't care. I'm like, oh, well, I like it. So, I love anything. Like, I went to a spiritual circle last week, which I haven't done anything like that for ages. Loved it. We went away for the weekend, this just gone, for the night, and that normally I'd be feeling really, really anxious and probably wouldn't enjoy it. Whereas I've come away wanting to live in the sticks more than I did before I went.
So what was it about going away with your family? What would that have brought up for you? I still, don't get me wrong, it still sort of does trigger some anxiety, I suppose, but I don't know, I was never present enough. I think I was always constantly trying to, what happens if the kids aren't okay? What happens if I haven't got everything that they need? What happens if, I don't know. What happens if, basically?
Yeah, and it was like, but if you're more present and if I'm more calm and more at peace, I suppose, my kids, and I'm sure most people, they pick up on that. And we've had a wonderful night, just 24 hours away. but it was really nice. We had a lovely, lovely time.
Oh, it's wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
So when you signed up, you got access to the Freedom Program, Finding Freedom from Habits and Anxiety, and the Circle community. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience of both of those?
The Circle group I find really helpful even now.
Because you're still in that one, aren't you?
Yeah. And at first the group coaching, oh gosh, I used to feel like I've just felt all nervous and now, and like when I used to talk on it, but I absolutely love it because you're surrounded by people that just don't judge you, don't pick fault with you. They hold space for you. They just want to listen, and everyone listens to each other. And I find myself nodding along. It's just nice to know that you're not on it. It made me not feel as alone anymore. That did. And doing all the work and listening to your videos and things. And I do apologize because I am hopeless at remembering certain things, like to say.
No, you don't have to apologize at all.
That is one of my things. I'm owning that. I just sort of, I used to really see that as a real negative. Whereas now I'm like, if I remember,
let's be honest, Hayley, if you signed up with me around a year ago, you completed that Freedom Program a year ago. So unless you've been watching it religiously every day for the last year, I wouldn't expect it.
But it just made so much sense what you were saying, and it resonated. Yeah, I thought, yeah, this is what I suppose I've always believed what you were saying. And I've thought today, I do visualize, I see a lot of visual things for some reason. And I feel like I'm cracking out of a shell. And even now, a year on, I still feel that. But I've said to you before, I find it exciting now. I don't dread the thought of just doing things. I just say to myself now, I either take a few breaths or I'm like, well, nothing bad's going to happen. So just do it. And so that is definitely helping me to live my life much better. I wasn't living really, I suppose. I was just existing, and that makes me feel really sad. And it makes me feel sad that there's so many people out there still feeling like that.
Yes, there's a lot of women out there who are struggling, who may get hope and may see something and hear something in your message. I know that you were called to work with people. You've been called to work with people. So what would you say to someone who was hearing this and feeling like they were just existing?
To sign up even just to the Circle group if they haven't got the funds maybe to do, the full. But just don't sit on the sidelines. Get stuck in. There's nothing to be scared of. For me, I believe there's only positive things to come from it. There's nothing that bad will happen. You will feel supported. You won't feel alone. Yeah, it's just, I found myself opening up into the group chat or to you more than I have done on the outer circle, like friends or family. Because I suppose, and this isn't a dig at any of my family members or friends, it's just, you feel like you're a burden more for people, I suppose, and they won't understand or they won't get it. But just even if, like, say, just sign up and then you've got the group coaching, that one, and just sit and listen. You don't even have to show your face, do you, if you don't feel up to it?
Yeah.
But yeah, just do that at first, just to get your confidence and see for yourself that people are willing to listen and offer advice or support. Or it's just, that has made a big difference to me, which I never thought. I thought I'd hate it, like always doing the group coaching and being on there. But yeah, now I really enjoy it.
Well, it's lovely to have you as part of our circle. I love it.
Yeah, me too.
So you've had, you know, quite the journey, I would say, over the last couple of years. You moved to Cornwall, didn't you? You signed up for coaching. You've been shedding layers
Mm.
of years of beliefs that weren't true. How's this impacted your relationship with your husband and your children and your family?
With my husband and the kids, it's made a huge, and this I want to say to people, it's not amazing all the time.
No.
As people know, but the awareness that it's brought to me, to say if me and my husband are having words over something, the awareness, it stopped things perhaps escalating. It's perhaps I've been open more and saying, look, this is making me feel this way. I'm just explaining, I'm just putting it out there because I know it'll help us to move forward. And then with the kids, I've definitely felt much calmer. I'm starting to enjoy being a mum, and I'm nearly 10 years into being a mum.
Mm.
And it still does play on my mind, like obviously more so my eldest. What happens if, you know, and I'm sure as parents, we're going to do stuff that might mess the kids up slightly or whatever, but I'm more at peace at that now because I know I've got tools to offer all of them, not just my eldest. And I'm just honest, and they see me when I'm not at my best, or I say to them now, look, I need to have 5 minutes just washing the dishes. Just you go do something. I'm just going to wash the dishes just to zone out a little bit, because obviously it can be full on sometimes. And they listen, and you know, they come and do TV or colour or go play or whatever. But I used to think that was a bad thing for them to see me upset or to see me lose it. And then, because I apologise to them and explain, I've noticed that my eldest has started, bless her, I think she's obviously hormones are kicking in and things because she's nearly 10. And she's had a few moments where she's come to me and she's like, I'm sorry, mummy, I got so upset then and I started shouting and I'm sorry about that. And I always say, you know, you don't need to apologise. It's good that you're noticing, you know, and that you don't need to get into that zone of feeling so explosive, you know, and that there's a way that we can help each other. But so it is a positive for them to see us feeling weak and that we can't manage everything because we're only human, aren't we? So yeah, that's been a big positive. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that you, like many other mums, lived through COVID with having your children at school.
Yeah.
And I remember when you came to me, I think we were either in lockdown 2 or, you know, there was still, and people were getting ill and you were having to self-isolate. How has your life like changed since that point, you know, with this coaching, with this work that we've been doing? Because it was incredibly difficult for many, many women.
Yeah, it was really, really full on. And I felt myself like I was getting to a point where I was starting to dread the school holidays because it just reminded me of that intense feeling that lockdown brought. But now, I know February holidays, we had a lovely week off. We had loads of nice plans. We went out with friends. Easter was sort of up and down, but nothing bad. Just, you know, just the normal. The kids might be bickering or whatever. But we had some days out. We stayed at my mum's caravan for a few days. And it's just, I don't beat myself up as much as I used to. I used to go into this massive spiral as, God, I've shouted, that's going to really mess them up, that's going to cause this, that's going to cause blah, 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 blah. I'd just go into this massive story. And then obviously, like you say, after lockdown, that made it feel worse. Whereas now I'm just saying to myself, it's just a school holiday. You've got plans. What I've done, which I used to hate doing, is having plans. But I've found it helps. I don't know why, I just hated having plans. Whereas now I have a few days, maybe one day we'll have plans and then another day we'll have nothing. So we can chill out in the garden or whatever. And I've just found that that works for me. And I just think it's taking that pressure off and realizing that doing what works for you and your family is, no one else is living under your roof. No one else is living your life. So no one else can pick at it or judge you. And that's what I don't take on board now, is people's judgments, because they aren't living my life. They aren't dealing with 3 children or whatever and their emotions. You know, they've all got emotions. Then I've got emotions on top of that. And some days are amazing. We have such lovely moments now. Well, we have had in the past, but I feel them more because I'm more present. Yeah, and just, I really don't give a shit really so much anymore about what people think or if they agree with what I do with my kids. So that's been massive.
Well, what's the impact of that, Hayley?
Just living life and wanting to live life and wanting to just being present and being happy, and it definitely does come with it from within. And not like, I just see people outside. I'm like, oh, I used to take on board all the time, you know, what they might think of. Like one of the kids, like, she used to love, blessed, and never wearing shoes. And I used to think, oh God, I've got to make her wear shoes because someone might have a comment about it or something like that. Whereas now she'll take them off all the time. And sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, just go with it. And then other times I just get down to her level and explain, you know, there might be something on the ground, but just an example of, even when I'm out and on days out, I used to really, I'd come back feeling really drained. And don't get me wrong, I still do now, but not, it's for different reasons, because I don't always like socialising. But I'd never want to admit that before.
So you're honouring more of what lights you up.
Yeah.
Taking notice of what doesn't serve you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I laugh to myself sometimes. I'm like, gosh, I can't believe you're like this. And sometimes, yeah, that little voice still is there.
Yeah.
But
yeah. But it's like the level, it's like the elevator of consciousness, isn't it? Some days we just wake up and we are like, right, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm just in a shit mood.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to trust me thinking, gonna like just try and get on, you know. And I think if you absolutely know that there's nothing outside of you that's causing you to be in a bad mood, it's just human nature, human beings just experiencing all of it, you can take it less seriously, and thus it does move along much more quicker.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you just give yourself a break. If you woke up in a foul mood, just acknowledge that and just be aware that you could be a bit more snappy than normal and try not to be. Or just say, I try and voice it, saying, look, I'm feeling a bit, because I get quite a bad fatigue and things. So I'll just sometimes say to the kids, look, my energy levels are running a little bit low. Can we do such and such or whatever? Or they have a bit of screen time maybe. Whereas I used to feel awful for that. Whereas now sometimes it's just necessary, because it is just to get through the day sometimes. But that very rarely happens where I feel like that awful feeling, you know, oh, you terrible mother, you've let them watch a film or something.
Well, that must have been, you know, like the way you describe it, it sounds as though it was quite debilitating for you to have this chronic judgment all the time, to live with that. What's it like to not live with that so much?
I find myself smiling more now. I find myself not frowning as much. I didn't realise how much I didn't realise how much of what I was thinking I carried in my face.
Tension, yeah.
Yeah. And And I think I've said before on the group coaching that I noticed that I could easily slip back into that habit, that thinking. And when I notice myself doing it now, I just smile, and it sort of changes. It stops me from slipping into them habits. And that's the thing, is noticing that it's a habit and you don't have to keep going round in that circle. You can stop that. Like me and Johnny have had a thing, my husband, a few weeks ago, where someone was gossiping or something at work, and he thought I was going to react a certain way, and I didn't. And he's like, but why aren't you reacting this certain way? And I said, because I don't need to, because I know what you're saying, you're telling me the truth, and if I bump into anyone, which I wouldn't, it's gossip or whatever. And that had a massive change for us as a couple. It just felt like another step forward for future things that might come in. And I just saw it as a chance to clear things, stop these habits, stop me reacting certain ways. I just see it as a chance and an opportunity now, and I don't fear these things. I love it. I find it so fascinating, and obviously I'm going to have bad days maybe sometimes, but nowhere near as bad as what it's been, to the point where I think I've told you before, Charlie, where years ago I'd only got 2 children then, and I rang my husband up and said, I'm going to have to ring social services. I can't do this anymore. It's because I remember they were downstairs and I was upstairs curled up in absolute bits on the phone to my husband. And that would last days, that feeling would. And I'd have to then get them ready and perhaps take one to nursery and then maybe go to a baby class. And I could feel, it was like dragging a chain along, just this extra thing. And that's gone now.
I love that you use visuals like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people think in visuals, don't they? Some people think in words. Some people think, in numbers. It's very interesting. And I think that visual of the chain is important, because I imagine for lots of women, and for you, it was like you were weighed down by this feeling of feeling sort of trapped by your experience, and it took a lot of courage for you to ask for help. It took a lot of courage for you to invest in that help, and it takes a lot of courage then to do the work.
Yeah, because feeling all these feelings that you tried to ignore and ignore and ignore, and I even up until this last week, I've had, I still get things that pop into my head, and I'm like, right, okay, but I process it now in such a different way, because I'm not scared of it anymore, and I know it's not going to affect my parenting, and I know that it's not going to affect my marriage. It's just something that's ready to be processed in my brain and move forward. And just that, not having that fear. And like I used to, up until a few months ago, even now sometimes I look at pictures of when the kids were smaller, and it does make me feel sad for how bad I felt, because I felt so bad. And not many people knew, really. They just used to say, oh, but you're such a good mum, you're such a good woman. I'm like, I wanted to scream at them and say, but you don't know. But I just carried on and carried on and carried on. And if this helps just someone that might watch this, that's maybe suffering the same, do it now. Just do it now. Sign up to whatever you think is best for you, and listen to other people, and listen to what you say and your work. And yeah, it's been life-changing. Yeah, sorry.
No, that's all right. It's okay. It's absolutely, it does make, it makes me feel emotional, because I find this work such an honor, such a deep honor. And seeing your journey from where you were to now is also, been walking beside you. So you've been doing it. I know how important it is. And I also know from my own experience of life, and I was older than you when I you know, how hard it is for people to carry the burden and feel so alone. And so the community, obviously this is in, you know, going live in my free community, this will go on my podcast, my YouTube channel, my circle community is the cheapest way to work with me. But I feel like community connection, sharing, being together as women is so important. But having the courage to face yourself and face your pain, you know, I'm always deeply grateful. And of course
it isn't easy, but it's not as scary as you think it will be, because for me it's just been that, you know, you process something and it's like, right, I understand that now, and I understand why I might act a certain way, or I don't need to do that anymore to keep me safe, which I didn't feel safe really, and I felt very alone. So yeah.
Hayley, I think this is going to be really very powerful for women to listen to, and
I hope so.
I'm very, very grateful for you, and very happy that you came across me via Simone. I love those sort of fate, not fatal. That's a terrible word to use. I meant fate.
It did. That's the thing. It felt right, and I just spoke to you, didn't I? And then signed up, and you were like, "Oh, that was quick." It wasn't fatal.
No, it wasn't fatal. I was kind of fatalistic. Now, the right word is about universal connections, fate. It's about the right person at the right time for you.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. I don't sort of look elsewhere for any. This understanding just made so much sense. So if it does for anyone else, yeah, just go for it.
And if they come into the circle, they'll see you.
I know, and all the women in there, gosh, yeah.
Well, they're great, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're a wonderful circle of women.
And just supportive. Yeah.
Well, it's been an honor to have you as my guest. Thank you so much. And any final words for anyone listening, or to anyone at all?
Yeah, just don't feel alone. And don't fear getting the help, or just joining your Facebook group or anything. Just go for it. There's nothing to fear. There's nothing to be scared of. And you'll be grateful that you do it now, and because a year on, you'll feel so much better. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Lots of love. Ciao.
Lots of
Bye.
love.
Bye.
Bye.